So, E3 is officially over as of today, and I wanted to sort of do like a roundup of all the Mirror's Edge Catalyst news that came out of this event. And there was a ton. I mean, just to show you guys, I have a full page of notes, alright? A full page of notes, and I have like a web page up right now of more information that just surfaced. There's so much information that I have for you guys, and we're going to be going over every single detail. There's details about the campaign, the type of movements that you'll have, the combat, the city itself, the story, and some small details on multiplayer as well, and different enemy types, pre-order bonuses even. There is so much to go over, alright? So we're going to get started on this right now. So for the single player, we do have some new in-game screenshots that I want to show you guys. So take a look at these. I'm going to have them going through the the screen right now. And we also have a name for this new city. Now previously in the original Mirror's Edge, we had it was just called the city, right? It didn't have a particular name. Everyone just referred to it as the city, and it was just known as the city. In this game, it's called Glass City, or referred to as the City of Glass, which is very, obviously, since the buildings and the architecture everywhere is very reflective and it's all made of glass, basically, it's very true to what the city is actually, what it actually is. So it's officially called Glass City now, and it's a pretty massive city. It's a bit different in terms of its style, because the first Mirror's Edge was kind of near future. It was cleaner, but a lot of it was realistic. You had realistic buildings, some cool designs here and there, but everything was like concrete, In this game, glass, straight up futuristic, and I do love the actual futuristic city, look to it. I love the way it's designed. Alright, we also have a new voice actor for Faith, alright? The previous voice actor is not returning to reprise her role. This time we have a new voice actor, and it is Faye Kingsley, alright? She actually did Voss's sister in Far Cry 3. She, the rebellion. She led rebellion in that game, the one that you slept with. And so it's the same voice actor, and you wouldn't have been able to know that if you watched the trailer, because she sounds actually very similar to Faith's original voice, and I forgot the name of the original voice actor who voiced her in the original game, but it was the same girl who did all the Autolog voiceovers for Need for Speed. But anyway, she's not back, and this time we have a new voice actor, and she sounds very, very, very similar to the original Faith. Like especially during combat and stuff, you wouldn't really be able to know it was someone else. It's very similar. So my personal opinion on this is, I think there was a good choice, and I think they found someone who, who really does kind of fit the look of the character and things like that. In all honesty, she sounds very similar, just a little bit younger. And since it is a younger version of what Faith was in, the original game, it kind of makes sense to have that. So I personally like the new voice for her. She sounds very similar, and I think she fits the character, and I hope that she can bring a certain amount of emotion and add like a certain amount of character to Faith, so that we get a more emotionally impactful storyline. So let's put it that way. We also have new returning characters. Alright, Icarus is back. If you guys remember, he was he was like your mentor, I guess, in the first game, and he always came on the chatter and told you where to go and kind of things like that. He was the guy over the radio, and he was your mentor who kind of trained you into the runners. So he's back, and no one knows in terms of his relationship to Faith. No one really knows yet, but it's not going to be the same relationship. He's not going to be like as high, I guess, as far as the leaders of the runners, because the runners, when it comes down to it, are not the only rebellion group in the game. We're going to talk about that later. Alright, so that's all I have information for the single player. We have a new voice actor, Glass City, and some in-game screenshots that I'm going to show you guys. We're going to move on to the movement and combat in the game. So I'm actually going to quote something that was on the website. It says, "Minds, hands, and control working in perfect unison. The impulses from your brain effortlessly translated into fluid movement on the screen. This is the main experience of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, alright? So basically they're saying that the controls and the way it feels, it's pinpoint accurate, and the controls work so well, to the point where you're gonna, where you look and where you want to go, you'll be able to just get there. There's no bullshit where I just didn't want her to do that or anything like that. It's supposed to work very fluidly. And from people who actually played the game at E3, everyone's saying that it actually handles really well. Like, people are being blown away by the way it handles. People are saying it's super smooth, it's super fluid, and it feels similar to the first game, just more refined. So that's very good news. I didn't want them to do, because, you know, Dying Light handled it a little bit differently. Dying Light was very light, and it allowed you to jump in a certain direction, but you could control your character in mid-jump, and I kind of didn't like that. I mean, like, you got a sense of control, like a lot of control, but it felt cartoonish and it didn't feel realistic, really. And after you got used to the parkour in Dying Light, it worked for that game, but for Mirror's Edge, I wanted them to keep it very physics-based, and where, oh, you jumped off the building, you can't jump off a building, then control her mid-flight and then go back on the ledge, you know? So I'm actually glad that it handles more like the first game, just more refined and more fluid and things like that, and that's actually good news, alright? So there are accessibility systems for novices in the game, so people who aren't really skilled. There's going to be some systems in place to kind of help you learn to parkour better, alright? They didn't elaborate on what those accessibility systems are, but they're going to be in the game for people who are new to, you know, Mirror's Edge, or just not skilled enough, alright? And as you progress through the game, you're going to get new gadgets. If you guys noticed on the box art of Mirror's Edge, you have something on her wrist. It looks like a grapple hook almost. So as you progress through the story, you're going to get more gadgets that will help you reach different parts of buildings and things like that, and whatnot. So that's where the gadgets come in place. You're going to be getting more gadgets as you progress through the game, alright? There's this new game mode, or I guess not a game mode, I think it's more like an activity called Dash, and Dash is kind of like time trial. You basically race to beat the fastest time against your friends or the world, and so you're going to have elements and points in the open world, I guess you could say, that will be like Dash activities, and you'll be able to race the ghost of your friend, very similar to the time trial stages in the original Mirror's Edge. So that's integrated into the open world, alright? In terms of exploration, exciting news. So not only will you be able to run along the rooftops, you'll also be able to go inside in the interiors of some buildings, as well as explore the deep tunnels below the city and the ground, alright? So you have complete verticality here. You can go on the street, you can go, there's going to be certain secret tunnels and puzzles below the city, which you'll be able to explore and figure out. You'll be able to go in the interior of, I don't know if they said all buildings or some buildings. I would assume some buildings, you know, because we haven't seen an open world game to this date that lets you explore every single interior. Witcher 3 is the closest one, you know, but this is a very much different game. This is a game populated by buildings everywhere, and I don't think we're going to be able to explore every single building. I hope. I mean, that would be amazing if they pull it off, but the good news is that, yes, interiors will be explorable for some buildings at least, alright? And then the rooftops, of course, we know that. There is no gunplay whatsoever. I think a lot of people like myself found this relieving, because we didn't want Mirror's Edge to turn into this FPS where it completely, you know, it completely detracts from the game's uniqueness and core. So there is absolutely no gunplay at all in Mirror's Edge. You can take down enemies with guns, but she in no way can pick up guns. And apparently it has to do with the story, is that there's some event that happens early on in the story, and she vows to herself as a character to never use guns again. So there's absolutely zero gunplay in the game, nothing. You're not going to be able to pick up guns. You'll be able to look at guns on the ground, but you won't be able to interact with them whatsoever, alright? And combat is seemingly built in constant movement, third-person takedowns. So if you guys remember in the gameplay, we saw her fighting an enemy and she gets thrown back, and then she does like a whirlwind turn jump and takes the camera switches to third person. Well, that's actually in game. That actually happens. So when you fight certain enemies, you're actually going to have two types of melee moves. All right, the first move is a trajectory move, where you'll be able to run and then take your momentum from you running and force it onto a different enemy, which is the first, when she kicked that guy out the window, that was one of those moves. All right, the combat is mapped to 2 buttons, I believe they said, and the first button is, okay, you can run and then basically kick the guy or just force your momentum on another person and send them back or send them flying, I guess, out a window or over a railing. And so, and then the other move is actually like sort of a in motion sort of quick takedown move where you can just run, like if you're running like a wall and you just want to kick someone and be done with it, then you can just do that. All right, but yeah, that's how combat is built. 2 different types of melee combat. One's trajectory and one's just seamlessly moving and, you know, based on the speed. All right, and third-person takedowns, that is true. There's mixed feelings on this. I know a lot of people are saying, it kind of takes you out of the action for first person. I would have preferred it if it was first person. Then there's people who say, well, it looks amazing, it looks really epic, and so it's really more brutal and rewarding when you actually see it. So let me know what you guys think. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on this. From what I understand, there's no way to turn the third-person mode off, third-person takedown mode off. They may include that in the full game when it releases. But yeah, there are third-person takedowns, so that's how it's going to look. It's going to look very cinematic when you take down an enemy in that format, alright? Next time we're going to move on to the Glass City itself. We're going to talk about some of the elements of the city itself. So it is completely free roam. You can run anywhere, rooftops, interiors, ground levels. That's good. You can climb on any building, alright? Even those super high skyscrapers, you can go up there apparently. So and gadgets will help you climb and traverse the city. So I guess as you unlock more gadgets, that will help you get to higher points in the game, and it's going to change almost the way the game handles. So gadgets are going to help you climb and traverse the city faster. Now the story is told through linked missions throughout the city itself. What you choose to do between each story mission is completely up to you. It's not like you're forced into another story mission immediately after it ends. There's a point where you go to and you have to be willing to accept that you're going to be involved in the story mission at that point. But what you do between each story mission is completely up to you. You can free roam, do certain activities and things like that. That is up to you, whatever you want to do, alright? So there's exploration, there's races to complete, there's puzzle solving, and much more, alright? There's hacking. You're able to hack billboards. This is a different side mission. You can hack billboards that display corporate propaganda, and you can actually hack them to display your own runner tag, which is it's an emblem that you actually make up, alright? It's not just a generic Mirror's Edge symbol. You can actually create your own emblem, and it will, you can hack that billboard so it displays that emblem instead of the corporate propaganda, bullshit that they have going on. And we'll talk about it a little bit. I'm going to talk about it later in terms of how that actually integrates itself into the multiplayer. And then the city is actually not unlocked from the beginning. The city unlocks the more you progress through the story. So it's a humongous city, but you'll start off in a small district. And as you complete more of the story, as you do more, missions and things like that, you'll unlock more of the city. More districts will open up. Now, there's no loading screens at all, which means that once the city opens up to a different district, you can move seamlessly between each district. All right. So at the beginning of the game, you are locked to a certain area, and then by the end of the game, you'll have the complete open world of the whole entire city to explore by yourself. All right. But it's not just go anywhere you want right from the get-go. It is locked into certain districts. I have mixed feelings about that, alright? I like the progression aspect of it, and I also like the fact that you can familiarize yourself easier with just that one portion of the district. But I also wonder, there's going to be times I know where I wonder how they're going to handle that, is it going to be like, oh, you need a certain gadget to get from one building to the next, or there's going to be a blockade? I hope they just don't do any hidden wall bullshit, But yeah, so the city is locked into certain districts, and you unlock those more as you progress through the game. I think when you actually beat the game and you get to the very end, being able to just explore the whole entire city is just going to be amazing. So it's huge, all right? And just imagine verticality. You'll be able to explore the rooftops, the ground, and the interiors. It's going to be sweet, all right? Next, we're going to move on to some cool information about the story. All right, so The whole theme is that there's zero privacy, and then freedom's pretty much abolished, and there's the whole city is a corporatocracy. That's actually a word. It's a government run by complete corporations. Corporatocracy. Yeah. You can look it up on Google, but it's actually a thing. It's a government run completely by the corporations. So that's the whole theme of it. You can, like I said, oh yeah. So this is basically some elements to the story. Excuse me. One decision that she makes gets her involved in all this bullshit. So her whole thing with Krugersec, being chased and her becoming like almost a vigilante, and like you know, she's considered like the leader almost, sort of like Hunger Games almost, where she's like the one person that can save everything. It's one decision that she makes. She's on some random job, something goes wrong, and it gets her into all this trouble. Alright, so that's how the story starts off. So Krugersec is the main enemy. If you guys remember that Kruger is actually an element they took from the first game. The original game had a private military corporation that was trying to take over the entire city, known as Pirandello Kruger. Alright, and Pirandello Kruger in the original game wasn't of complete power yet, but they were slowly getting there. You know, they're like on their way to complete and utter control throughout the city. So Krugersec is basically the full realized version of Pirandello Kruger, which was in the original game, but this time it's being held by one man called Gabriel Kruger, and he is the leader of this corporation. He has complete power over all the citizens and things like that, and he's ruthless and a dick. So it says his actual biography says he's a proud man devoted to preserving the current order and to protect it all against all enemies, internal and external. Alright, so he thinks he's doing the right thing, and oppression is the way to go, but obviously the citizens themselves have no freedom whatsoever over anything that they do. And then, not only is there the runners. Now the runners are rebelling against this, and they're sort of for the people. If you guys remember that the runners were actually, there was propaganda that was turning the city away towards the runners, and the runners was like the main kind of rebellion group, but a lot of people viewed them as enemies because of propaganda bullshit. So this time, runners are actually viewed in a lighter way. They're not viewed as ruthless or as, you know, the bad guys anymore, really. They're sort of for the people, and they are their own rebel group. But there's actually another group, which is actually a reference that they stole from the original game, I guess. So there's a terrorist organization called Black November, alright? Now, when you explored certain areas and certain ducks and hidden areas in the original Mirror's Edge, you got to see some graffiti written on the wall, especially I believe in the last level on the Shard, where there was like a hidden air duct vent where you would collect like the last runner bag. Right next to that air duct vent, there was written on the actual vent, "Where is November?" And no one really knew what November was. We got some very snippets of information. We kind of knew that there was some rebellious group in the first game, but they never elaborated on it. Besides that, I think it was planned for like a sequel that they were really going to, you know, go into that. But yeah, Black November is actually a terrorist organization, and it was a reference. They were referenced in the original game, "Where is November?" If you guys remember that graffiti. And so they're extremely brutal, by the way. They are viewed more as terrorists because for them, they don't care who they hurt and how they do it. If they want to, they'll blow up an entire city, an entire district of the city. They'll plant some nuclear bomb here and blow up in the middle and kill thousands of people just to send a message to Krugersec. So they're actually the more brutal terrorist organization, but they're rebelling against the city, so they're kind of the good guys, but they just don't care who they hurt in the process. And Faith is going to be tied to each group. She's going to be going between the runners as well as Black November. And truth be told, in the scene in the trailer where she gets out of prison and she looks on the camera, they actually put a tracking device on Faith and basically say, "Get a job in the next 2 weeks, and or else we're gonna come get you." And so basically what happens is she goes to Black November, and she gets this wristband, this tracking device, whatever she's wearing, basically destroyed and cut out from her. And then she goes and she joins up with the runners and whatnot. So yeah, she's gonna be going between two different factions here. I don't know if the runners and the Black November is gonna work together in a way, but Black November is a terrorist organization that's gonna definitely you're gonna be having some involvement in. So keep that in mind. All right. I'm gonna go over some elements here as far as the different activities, more so because there's a link here I just found. I didn't write this down yet. So there's 3 types of activities so far that we know. There's races that we talked about, billboard hacks, which we also talked about, and deliveries, which is another one that we didn't talk about yet. So Faith is going to be able to make deliveries, because runners are couriers, you know, and that was the whole element in the first game. So you're going to be able to go to certain people and they're going to be like, hey, I need you to take this privately sensitive material to this part of the city. Can you get there? And you would have to basically get there, and there would be enemies along the way. You'll be chased by different, you know, police force and things like that. So there's different activities, and those are the only 3 that we know so far. I assume there's going to be more, but that's what we know so far. All right, there's collectibles and puzzles to solve, so you're probably going to have hidden bags back in the new Mirror's Edge, which is pretty cool. All right, now we have 3 different types of enemies so far. All right, so we saw a different, you know, look of the enemies. So here's the information on them. So the first type of enemy is called Protectors, and they are light armored. They are able to adapt to free running, but they prefer melee weapons to firearms. All right, so these are going to be your enemies. They're going to probably have batons on and are able to you know, chase after her at certain moments. All right, then you're going to have these other enemies called Guardians, and they are versatile, medium armored foes who actually use firearms and will require more momentum to defeat. So these are the people who are going to be with assault rifles and going to be pointing your guns at you, but they're not going to be chasing you in a sense. All right. Then there's called Sentinels. All right, and they're heavily armored security forces who are a major threat to Faith and are either left avoided or you could actually use a lot of speed to defeat them. So they're like the super armored guys in the original game with the big machine guns. They're probably going to have guns, they're probably going to have a lot of armor, and you're going to need to, you know, like probably best avoid them, but you're going to need to take out like a lot, like use a lot of, you know, moves to take them out because they're going to be really powerful. This is an article from IGN, by the way, so yeah, basically the story itself is going to be leading up. It's not connected to Mirror's Edge, the original one. They said it's not. They're going in a different direction with it. But what they are saying is that Faith is going to be a young woman in the game, and what they're doing is they're trying to build Faith up to the character that she was in the first game. So all the events that go through the first game and the events in the story are actually going to change the world. They said that it's not just going to stay the way it is. It's actually going to change how the world behaves and how it looks and how its civilians are as you progress more in the story. But Faith will actually change Faith's character. So pretty much imagine Tomb Raider, all right, where Lara Croft goes from like a young innocent girl in the beginning and now she's like a hardened survivor. It's like the same kind of theme with Faith. She's like this, you know, kind of young girl in the beginning, and then she goes into this not ruthless but brave, bold woman in by the end of the game. So it's going to lead up to who she really was in what type of character she was in the original game, but the events in the story itself will remain separated from it. So next up we have multiplayer. Very minor multiplayer details, but actually there's kind of a lot of stuff. I'm going to put up this comment right here. All right, take a look at this comment. All right, so this comment actually makes you think to yourself like, wow, this comment got me excited. And you know why it got me excited? Because here, let's read it together. Someone asked on Facebook, will there be multiplayer? And Mirror's Edge on Facebook replies, Mirror's Edge Catalyst has an online component which will deliver a free running experience for our fans and their friends. So when you read that, it makes you kind of think to yourself, oh my gosh, there's free roam multiplayer. and you can get with your friends and free roam in the whole city. It's open world multiplayer. No. And it's not, and it kind of pissed me off when I found out later, but it's not. We got confirmation that it's not. It's asynchronous multiplayer, which basically means that you're kind of by yourself, but you race against Ghost, and your friends' choices and what they do, what your friends do in their own game will somehow affect yours. All right. But yeah, and I thought it was gonna be open world multiplayer. It would have been amazing if it was open world multiplayer. You know, you can just go into a menu and you have the whole world to explore multiplayer. But no, it's not like that. Everything is integrated into the single player campaign itself. I can tell you right now, it probably won't be always online, which is good. You know, we don't want an always online game. But multiplayer, if you choose to have multiplayer elements, it's going to be integrated into the single player portion of the game. Alright, so think kind of Watch Dogs, where Watch Dogs wasn't always online, but if you wanted to, you could have people like, you know, invade. So maybe similar to like that, but not as competitive. Alright, there's no competitive multiplayer, actually. There's zero competitive multiplayer. They said that there's no competitive multiplayer in the game, that they actually talked about competitive multiplayer and kind of went over some ideas about how it would be done properly, but in the end they just decided that, you know what, we don't want to try and risk pulling this off. So there's going to be no competitive multiplayer in the game. They discussed it, but they decided not to for reasons unknown, I guess. So there's Dash, the Dash mode that we talked about before, which was the races. It actually saves your time. It's pretty much similar to time trial in the original game, where you race against your friends' time and whatnot. So that's one moment. And if you actually, let's talk about pre-ordering the game, because pre-order bonuses say that you get items. The pre-order bonuses, alright, there's two pre-order bonuses that goes on. There's the Combat Runner kit, and there's the Speed Runner kit, alright? And it says that the items, these kits, alright, these kits are items that change how you appear in other players' worlds, alright, and leaderboards and customizable billboard hacks, you know, like the emblems that I talked about before. Alright, so it changes the way you look in other players' world. It's all very confusing, alright? At one moment you read this comment here, and it's like, oh, the game has open world multiplayer, but then they say no, then they say there's no competitive multiplayer, but then they're talking about here you can't, look, the items change how you appear in other players' worlds. That sounds like you can invade another player's world or things like that. So what my original vision was for multiplayer Mirror's Edge was to have a customizable character that you can customize the way your runner looks, and the multiplayer would be separate from the campaign. You can customize the way your runner looks. It's completely free roam multiplayer. You can have, there would be like 250 or 500 bags that would be scattered around this large city, and you can collect them and actually pair up with a cooperative team member or team runner who would be one of your friends, and both of you guys can collect bags, and that would actually integrate into both of your games. So, okay, I collect 25 bags, he collects 10 bags. That means that, hey, both of us together collected 35 bags, and 35 bags collected counts for both of our stats. So that was my original vision for multiplayer, and unfortunately they didn't, you know, try to mess with that. I'm sure they would have thought of something similar, you know, but they just didn't decide to put it in the game. That means that in terms of multiplayer, while there is going to be online components, it's going to be asynchronous multiplayer, which basically means that you're not really playing competitively or with anyone else by your side. So that's a little bit disappointing, because I really wanted something like I just wanted like an open world exploration multiplayer. And I'm sure, you know, as time goes on, the PC modding community is going to probably put that in for the PC version. You know, maybe if they do something like Just Cause 2, you know, that'd be crazy. But yeah, you know, that's our details on the multiplayer. They're going to talk about multiplayer later. It's just that at this point in time, we don't have that much info. Alright. Now I also have a I already talked about that, so I didn't need to talk about that again, so never mind. Okay, so pre-order bonuses, alright? Now, there's difference in pre-order bonuses here, alright? When you pre-order the game at GameStop or a physical retailer, depending on the retailer you choose, whether it be GameStop, whether it be Amazon, you will have to choose between the Combat Runner Kit or the Speed Runner Kit. So maybe GameStop has the Combat Runner Kit, maybe Amazon or Best Buy has the Speed Runner Kit. And you would have to choose between, you know, either, okay, which one do I want, right? We don't know what these kits, you know, look like. We don't know how it's gonna how each one's gonna let us look. So pre-ordering at this point, you know, it's kind of like a guessing game. But if you pre-order the digital version of the game, you get both runner kits automatically. So the way I'm going to handle it is this, because obviously I want the best experience. So I'm going to buy it digitally on PC via Origin, and I'm going to get the physical versions for probably PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I'm buying it on all platforms. I'm going to get the physical version for both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and get physical a digital version for PC. So, but yeah, digital, you get both runner kits. Physical, you have to choose between one of them. So just keep that in mind if you plan on pre-ordering. Check your retailer for retail-specific information and runner kits. So, no word on a collector's edition yet. We don't know if we're gonna get one. No word on a deluxe edition yet. Usually EA has been doing this with Need for Speed, and they're doing it for Star Wars Battlefront. So maybe Mirror's Edge will get a deluxe edition, but we don't know what it will include. All right, so, but that's all the details that came out of E3. What I can tell you is this: is that people who played the game, who actually were there playing the game on the floor, positive feelings all around. Everyone's basically saying that it's really great to have the game back, that it handles really well, that the sense of speed is fantastic, that the controls work really well and seamlessly, the movement and fluidity is perfect, and everyone's really liking the game. A lot of people are saying that the open world is beautiful to explore, and the game's gorgeous and runs well, and everything like that. So overall, we get a lot of positive feelings regarding Mirror's Edge. It's winning a lot of awards right now at E3, which is fantastic, and so it looks like the game is amping up to be something special and something really good and great, which is just fantastic for people like us who are huge fans of the original game. But a lot of Mirror's Edge Catalyst news coming out is February 23rd, the official release date. That's coming out very soon. It's going to go faster than you think. But yeah, it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to play it. I wish I attended E3. I wish I got into E3 rather, the actual event, because I would have probably played that demo 3 times while I was there. But it's just really nice to have the game, know it's coming back, and know it's being done right, and have people who are playing the game saying really positive things about it. So, all right, you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you all for watching, and I'll update you guys on more Mirror's Edge info whenever we get it. So have a good one, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.